Hi, you guys, and welcome to the Prototype Angus tutorial. I'm really excited about this baby. I have not done a little mini in a very long time. I adore mini babies. They are so cute and they're easier to root because their heads are smaller, which is great because I've been having some bad tendonitis acting up. I think Angus will be about 14 inches long when he's finished. And he is just so cute. Like, I love his little face. Okay, I know you probably can't tell very well on screen, but his vinyl, he is German vinyl. And I just want to neutralize his vinyl just a little bit before I get started. I'm not going to do a ton of layers, just a little bit. He is just a little bit orange toned, which is totally normal for German vinyl. You can easily work with that just by neutralizing a little bit. So to neutralize him, I am going to be using Irresistible's Heat Set Paint Light Blue, and I'm going to use some Exodus thinning oil with that. So I'm just going to put a little bit of thinning oil in here. A little bit of my paint and mix this together. I want it to be pretty transparent. Anytime you're using paint that has white in it, it can get chalky. So I would rather do a few extra layers than have a chalky base. So I'm just going to add a little bit more thinning oil. And let me just take a look. This is good right here. You guys probably can't see that here. I'll put some right here for you. You can see a little bit of the color, but it's mostly transparent. I'm just going to get a cleaning well started here too with, this is Clean Strip Odorless Mineral Spirits. And I'm going to get one of my Swissber's Jumbo Wedges and then just a clean, dry mop brush for the creases here. So I'm just going to use this bigger brush. We'll get it done really quickly. And I'm going to go ahead and do a full layer on the entire baby. I won't do inside the nose though. And I'm also going to do the rest of the head, which you guys know I normally don't paint, but when I am doing neutralizing, I am definitely going to do those neutralizing layers on the whole head. All right, and I'm just going to take my little brush here, and I just want to go ahead and pounce the creases. And I'll just put that on my drying rack, and we'll go ahead and start on the limbs here. I could have used just a regular blue, like an ultramarine blue. If I didn't want the kit any lighter, I am using this one with white in it because I would not be mad if the kit was a little bit lighter and more neutral. But if you don't have this color, you know, you can either just use some ultramarine blue with a little bit of white in it, or if you want a darker skin tone, feel free just to use a regular blue. And again, we're just going to go ahead and pounce our creases here. I want to make sure that I get the little nails well. And I'm thinking I might do 3 of these layers. We'll see how it looks, but I'm guessing it'll be 3 layers. Gosh, his little limbs are so little. I normally put my finger there when I hold it. I've forgotten what it's been like since I did a really little baby. My last one was 12 inches, my last mini. And it was actually a portrait baby for somebody who had lost their baby. So it was a, you know, a real special baby. All right, let's go ahead and pounce our creases. Well, I can hold it. I can hold the legs with my finger. I definitely underestimated the amount of paint I was going to be using. So I'll be mixing some more up. Just want to pounce that really well. And then again, make sure that we're pouncing the creases well. And pounce that well. And then again, we just want to make sure that we clean our creases up well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven for at 265 for 9 minutes. I'm going to check it after 6 minutes just because it's a smaller kit. Sometimes the vinyl heats up faster, so the vinyl will cure fast. I mean, the paint will cure faster. So I'm just going to kind of check on it partway through and see what it's looking like. All right, so here is Angus after 1 layer. I think it's definitely going to be 3. So let's go ahead and mix some more of this back up. try to mix enough up for 2 more layers here. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. Trying to get it the same as last time, mostly transparent, but a little bit of color here. It's kind of, I know you guys can't see this, but I'm just comparing it to my last swipe, and that looks pretty good right there. I'm probably going to speed up this portion so that you guys don't have to watch me do the same exact thing 3 times. So you can enjoy some music with my speed painting. Hi, you guys. So for you, it's been probably 1 second, and for me, it has been 2 weeks. So here is Angus here. I'm happy with the lightness level. I'm not going to do any more. I didn't want to make the kit like white. I just wanted to neutralize and lighten it a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do veins. And I'm going to be using my own pre-mixed vein color. I do have a video if you guys want to just search Eborn's veins. I show how to use that. I was going to use my powders, but because this baby is so small, I want a little bit more control with this little tiny brush, especially for areas like the hands and feet. Which is why I'm using paints instead of powders for this one. Just have a little speck I want to get off here. There we go. Okay. Couple little specks. Just gonna brush him off a little bit here. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to mix this up a bit. My mix has definitely thickened up. This mix is several years old. So I just want to kind of test it up here and see if I need to thin it or anything. And no, it's actually fine. All right, so I'm going to start. I'm going to go right up from the eyes, and I'm going to pounce that, and then we're going to go right kind of in the center of the forehead with a little movement right up into the hairline there. And again, I'm going to pounce. As I get to the outer edge, I'm going to pounce harder so it just kind of fades off. A good rule of thumb for veins, having them be dark enough but not too dark, is to use your camera, your phone. Just take a quick picture. If you can see them well in photos, they're too dark. You want to see them to the naked eye, but not be able to see them in photos clearly. And that usually means that they're kind of at the perfect darkness level where they'll just barely peek through paint layers. You always can touch them up and make them a little bit darker later on during the painting process if you want them to be darker, but it's almost impossible to make them lighter. So I usually make them on the lighter side and then just touch them up if I need to. If you are a member of my YouTube channel, you can go into the member group, and under the guide section, there's vein maps that are just kind of little cheat sheets on where to do veins. I'm going to do kind of right under the ear here and behind the ear. I like making these ones in the temple area just a little bit darker so that they just peek through the hair a bit more. And then of course I fade them out where the hair won't be. And that right down in front of the ear. And then back to the hairline. And this one we're going to make kind of like a V this way towards the eyebrow. And we'll do one a little bit like so. Again, where it stops and starts is where I want to focus the most of my pouncing. And again, we'll do some real small ones kind of behind and under the ear. And let's just darken this one a little bit. That's going to be showing through the hair by doing another little layer on it. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the limbs here. So we're going to go ahead and do some on the outside of the hand here. I want to go down from the fingers, pounce that. I don't want to let it sit too long because it'll kind of stay and be too dark. And we're going to go right across the back of the hand here, down to the wrist. Going to do a real small one on the outside of the pinky finger there. And same thing along the outside of the pointer. I need to do, hold on. I'm having some vinyl peeling right here, so let's repair that really quickly. All right, so I have a little sanding block here. Sorry about that. This is for your nails. Let me see if I can get this to show up. Can you guys see this vinyl peeling? So what I want to do is I want to stretch this out as best as I can. I want to take this little sanding block and I want to do little tiny circles. And you just do it really pretty gently. And I'm just going right along the edge of that peel there. Usually it's just like a small vinyl defect where it wasn't a smooth pour from the factory and is easily fixed this way. All right, that looks much better. Nice and smooth. That away with a brush. I'm just going to brush off any excess there. And we are going to do some medium. I will do it on both of the hands, but I'll do that after the veins before we put it in the oven. All right, I just want to kind of look over, make sure I don't see anything else, and I don't. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, we'll do veins on the inside of the arm here. When I do veins in a video, I always get asked this question. When you do a vein and you pounce it, sometimes the pattern will transfer. I probably can't get it to do it on purpose, but if I go like that and then pounce, it'll transfer a little line there. People want to know how to prevent that. You really can't prevent it. You are stamping paint in an exact design on a sponge and then putting it back down. I like leaving them personally. I think it adds just a little extra realism. Sometimes if it doesn't fit, I'll remove them, and literally all you have to do is take the edge of your sponge and wipe it off. I'm going to go ahead, we'll do one on the inside of the arm here, kind of where the brachial artery would be. We're going to go right around the elbow, both sides. And then we're also going to go right on the top of the arm towards the wrist. We're going to do some really little ones on the inside of the palm here. Just really, really, really thin, especially with how tiny this baby is. All right, there we go. All right, I just paused you guys and looked over this side really well. I don't see any anything on this side that I need to fix. So we're going to do the same thing, little lines starting between the fingers and then kind of diagonal on the hand down to that wrist. The hand is definitely an area where if I get extra lines from my sponge, I keep them. Again, we're going to do that pointer finger, the little finger, and then we'll also do the thumb on this one. Just kind of right there at the base of the thumb. Let me get the excess off of my brush here, and again, just some little teeny tiny, as small as I can get them, lines on the inside of the palm, especially the palm end closest to the thumb. If you kind of look at your own, you can see usually a good pattern there. Do one on this side. Do the inside. I want a little bit of movement, not a straight solid line. and I'm going to pounce harder on the ends. And then I usually pounce harder kind of one spot in the middle just to kind of break it up a little bit. Both sides of the elbows. And then same thing, we'll do that brachial artery there. And a little bit extra in the wrist and kind of right up and over that forearm. I usually do them in here also. The way that the bend is, I'm not going to because you wouldn't be able to see it. All right, on to the feet. So we're going to go kind of straight down from the toes here. We will be adding some blue shading after that also. But I just want kind of little lines, and we're going to go from the line at the big toe right down the foot here. Do a little one right on the inside of the big toe. And then these ones are my favorite ones to do on the inside of the foot. Just a bunch of really teeny tiny veins. And right up the ankle bone there. We'll go a little bit on the outside of the foot here. We're going to do right where that knee bend is on the thigh side, not the calf side. And we'll do one kind of right on the inside of the leg here, going towards the knee. Both sides of the knee going inward toward the front of the leg, and then we'll do one on the inside of the thigh as well. And just taking a good look. I don't see anything on this side. Again, just the little lines down from the toes. Right on that baby toe, and just a little bit of a squiggle line on the outside of the foot there. Do the inside of the big toe, and then all of our little tiny veins here. And right on that ankle bone on both sides again. On the inside, and I'm just going to blend a little bit with my brush where it kind of met the crease there, and I couldn't get it well with the sponge. Do right on the inside of the leg here. And both sides of the knees down towards the front of the leg. And then we'll do that inner thigh. I don't want to do it where the creasing is, because that is supposed to kind of indicate skin folds and stuff where you wouldn't see a vein. So I'm just going to put it right above those creases. All right. Just rinse my brush here. I'm going to put just a little bit of Exodus thinning oil here. And this is ultramarine blue. Do just a little bit more here. This should be about good there. But let's check it and make sure. And that is good. All right. So I need a pretty little brush for this baby. I'm going to go ahead and use this one, which is a hand trimmed brush. And we're just going to go ahead. I'm going to put this on the inner corner of the eye here. And just take a clean, dry brush and pounce that kind of up and over the center of the eye. Go right over that for just a little more darkness level. I'm going to take it all the way that eye crease and kind of pounce it up onto the eyelid and down into that eye corner. And then you can just take your sponge if you need to clean up the edges just a little bit there. I'm going to go right around the nose here and just pounce that with the brush. We'll go inside the nostrils. These nostrils are great. They are like really deep, which makes shading them so much easier. We're going to use this blue right in the philtrum. And then we're also going to go around the center of the nose, kind of diagonal down the sides on the outside of the philtrum there. And we're just going to blend this with a brush, and then we'll pounce kind of the bottom there to clean it up a little bit. That is going to be our blue undertone in that area. We'll also go ahead and do a layer of this blue on the lips, starting at the crease, and then just kind of blend it out. And we'll also do a bit of this blue shading right here, both sides on the outside of the lip blue, and right at this crease here. I'm going to do a little bit of this blue shading kind of above the brow line, and that one I'm going to blend with a sponge here. And there's like a divot where, for all sculpts are going to be different, but where the brows are sculpted, then there's kind of an indent that's usually like a finger kind of depth above. That indent is where you want to shade. You don't want to shade too close to the actual brow because then in photos, sometimes the shading can look like eyebrows. So you do want to be careful. But usually if you just follow that kind of natural indent that they've created, you're going to be in the right spot. All right, I'm going to go ahead, blue shading in the ear creases here and right in the ear canal, and then we'll just pounce the excess off. And then we'll do a bit of shading just here around the creases, around the neck and such. And then just a little bit in the smaller creases. Let's just do a little bit right above the ears here. I did do some veining there too, but I want to do it a little bit under the veining, kind of right where that ear shadow is. All right, and that is our first blue shading on the face. So I'm going to do some right on the center of the palms here and just right in between the fingers. And we can also do kind of on those deeper creases. You don't need to do all of the small creases, just the deeper ones. And right in the center of the hand there. We'll go right in the crease of these connected fingers. So I'm going to pounce any that got on the fingers themselves, not in the crease. All right. And on the foot, we're going to go on the kind of center towards the inside of the foot there. And then right at the base of those toes. And we'll blend the base kind of right up into the crease there. And right on those creases. And we'll do on this one pretty well, again, just kind of the deeper creases. I just want to do these ankle creases really, and then the bend of the leg crease. Use a little bit bigger brush for this one. All right. Same thing here. We're just going to kind of pounce that up into the crease. And we'll do these two. And then the large bend here. Whoops. All right, there we go with our blue. All right, I'm just going to leave that to sit for just a couple of minutes to air dry. And then I'll be putting some medium on and then we'll bake. All right, so I'm just going to be using some Irresistible's Heat Set Paint Primer here. And I just want to mix this up really well. And I'm going to use it on both of the hands because I don't want there to be a texture difference in the hand. It'll make painting later more difficult. So I'm just going to go ahead and brush this on the entire hand here. And I'm going to go right to that crease there. It gives us a nice, perfect kind of natural separation. I'm going to make sure that I get the sides of the fingers. I just don't want there to be any texture difference. And we're just going to go ahead and pounce this. And then like this area here, I got it a little bit lower than that crease. So I just want to pounce that area a bit harder to remove that product. And I want to make sure it is really good on there where we did that little bit of repair. Just to make sure we're preventing any texture of that sanding or that line from getting any paint stuck in it later. All right. And then let's go ahead. We'll do the other hand. And we're going to do the same exact thing, just right along that crease line. If I had noticed that issue before I started like painting and everything, I would have done this step first, but I had already done veins and stuff when I started it. So it's not the end of the world to do it this way either. But ideally, this would have been one of the first steps. I was thinking about putting this like in editing first. But you know what? Sometimes things happen during painting and you have to kind of adjust course and make repairs. And I like having the opportunity to show you guys that. So if something like this does happen to you, you don't freak out. Like, you know what you can do to fix it without losing the work that you've done already. So again, I'm going to pounce a little bit harder just along that crease line. And that looks good. I pounced pretty well. I don't see any visible texture. I don't want any visible texture with primer. And I'm not going to do the feet. I was thinking about possibly doing the feet, but the feet look good to me. They don't need it, so I'm not going to touch the feet. So I'm going to let this primer sit for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this baby in the oven. I'm going to bake at 265 for 9 minutes. All right, so Angus is out of the oven here. I'm going to thin this down, and we're going to do a blue depth layer. I'm going to be using one of these depth layer sponges from A Small World Nursery. This looks good. I just want it pretty transparent. The head is still a little bit warm. Don't do this if you're not experienced. You should let it cool all the way. I like being able, if I can, to do a layer when it's a little bit warm, especially on these smaller kits, to help minimize the amount of times that I need to bake it. When it is warm, it will kind of half cure right away, and then I can do another layer when it's cool before baking, and those colors won't kind of blend together and end up looking a little bit muddy or dirty, which can happen when you do layers without baking in between. All right. So to this blue mix, I'm going to take a little bit. This is just Genesis Pyrrole Red 02. And I'm just going to add some red. I want it to be kind of a, I don't know, a little bit purple, but mostly red. And that looks perfect right there. And I just want to do a little layer on the lips here before I do a depth layer with that. So I'm going to start right at that crease and move right down to the outside edges. Do a little bit in the philtrum there as well. And a little bit here right in those ear creases. I don't have much on my brush, so I don't really need to pounce excess out. It's just like a little tiny bit on my brush. If you have excess on your brush, definitely pounce the excess though. And also really quick, I'm going to take some Bountiful Baby Light Red, which is pretty similar actually to that color that I just mixed up. And I'm just going to use what's on the lid here and one of Christine Woolley's hand-trimmed hair painting brushes, which are absolutely amazing. I think you can get these at Irresistibles and Dolls by Sandy, and I think also at Ultimate Fusion. I'm just going to dip it in here to get it a little bit wet. And then we're just going to go right along the edge here for our capillaries. And I'm just going to pounce, I've got a new sponge here. I'm just going to pounce just a little bit on the outside there. And we're going to repeat the same thing on this side here. You don't want the pattern to be the same. This one I did like a higher up. You can do any pattern you want, but I don't like them to be like too uniform looking on each side. I want them to be different on each side. All right, that is going to be that for capillaries. And I'm going to go ahead and use this sponge here. I'm just going to add a little bit of thinner. This is another sponge. This is from, this one doesn't have a sticker on it, but this is a Small World Nursery. This is the Eborns Edition Depth and Modeling Sponge Set, which I use in most of my videos. And we're just going to do a good all over depth layer with this. I'm not doing the main part of the head. There's no need to. I'm going to be rooting. So the scalp, for realism, the scalp should be lighter than the rest of the head. So I don't have the need to. And also, I'm going to be, since I'm going to be rooting, I can't varnish that area of the head anyways where I'm going to be rooting. So there's just really no need to paint it unless you're going to have a baldy, or if you're painting hair and you want to paint the head first, then by all means paint the rest of the head. All right. Then onto the feet, I want to leave this little area blank. That kind of the section that we did that blue shading on, but we'll do the rest of the foot there and the leg, of course. Get those little toes well. Oops, went just a little too far over there. Just pounce that off. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bake this now at 265. for 9 minutes. I think we're almost at an hour right now. I'm going to end part 1 here, and then I'll see you guys shortly in part 2.